The relationship between the United States and China is complex and has been marked by tensions in recent years. The two countries have significant economic ties, but also have geopolitical and ideological differences that have led to misunderstandings. It'd be better if we look back on how the relationship between these superpower countries, seeking to contain its influence while also engaging in areas of cooperation and promoting its own interests and values in the international system. To understand fully the overall relations, we should first look at the four phases of U.S.-China relations from 1941 to the present. The first phase is from 1941 to 1950. During the Chinese Civil War, which lasted from 1945 to 1949, the United States supported Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government in its fight against the communist forces led by Mao Zedong. The U.S. provided military and financial assistance to the nationalists in an attempt to prevent the spread of communism in China. However, despite U.S. support, the communist forces were ultimately victorious, and Mao Zedong established the People's Republic of China in 1949. The second phase is from 1950 to 1972. For the U.S., China was her enemy through the Korean War, in which the United States came to aid South Korea while Communist China joined with North Korea. Also in Vietnam War 1965 to 1975, Beijing assisted Vietnam in its struggle against the U.S. because Mao considered the United States the primary threat to the security of the recent communist victory in China. Moreover, tension also intensified when the U.S. recognizing Taiwan as the legitimate government of China until the 1970s. Of course, the U.S. economic aid to Taiwan also caused more tension in the U.S.-China relation. The third phase is from 1972 to 1991. The U.S. had a close relationship with China because there was a common goal for the two was to against the Soviet Union. Since the Carter administration established official diplomatic relations with China, then Nixon's visit to China in 1972, while Mao perceived a greater threat from the Soviet Union. During the 1980s and 1990s, the U.S. pursued a policy of engagement with China with the hope that increased economic and cultural ties would lead to greater political liberalization in China. This period saw significant growth in trade and investment between the two countries. The final phase is from 1992 to the present. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Sino-America relations start more complicated. After the Cold War ended, the world moves to a new era. Obviously, Sino-America relations have become the foundational issue in the international relations system. China's rapidly rising economically, politically, and militarily, and China's ambition to be a superpower. From U.S. perspective, only China is a potential country like her old enemy, the Soviet Union, and China can become her rival. Moreover, there are some ongoing escalated conflicts that hinder Sino-America relations like the South and East China Sea, the Taiwan Strait, so on and so forth. Hence, there are some scholars like Graham Allison who argue that the United States and China now face a Thucydides trap scenario as rising Chinese power challenges U.S. hegemony. Overall, for much of the 19th and early 20th centuries, the U.S. had only limited contact with China, and the two countries did not have diplomatic relations until 1979. However, in recent years, the relationship has become more strained, with concerns over human rights abuses in China, trade imbalances, and geopolitical tensions in the South China Sea and Taiwan. The Trump administration in particular took a confrontational approach toward China, imposing tariffs on Chinese goods and taking a more aggressive stance on issues such as intellectual property theft and Chinese influence in international organizations. The current Biden administration has signaled a more nuanced approach to China, seeking to balance competition and cooperation in the relationship. The U.S. has also been working with allies in the region to counter China's growing influence and assertiveness. In the next episode, I'll review the grand policies of each U.S. administration toward rising China, reflecting its concerns over China's growing economic, military, and geopolitical influence. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay updated with my latest content.